Hello and welcome to the Kundalini podcast. That was Zen. This is Tao. I'm Vivek Govekar. Namaste. This is episode 78. Today I'm going to talk about how to accept change and how to be ready for change. This is something very important that I've learned recently. How things can change for you when you have a before and after of, let's say, 1 year. I keep talking about making changes through your own actions, through affirmations, through positive outlook, and more importantly, stop seeing through the prism of other people's expectations of you, ideas of you. So, what have I learned? A difference in 1 year. Here's what happened to me. Um, I've mentioned my divorce. I've mentioned the fact that I moved out and went to explore the world and do something with my creative abilities and to heal and recover from my divorce. Obviously, I needed to get out of the entire system, having a job, having responsibilities, having to work 9 to 5, take care of a child. I was fortunate enough to have that luxury. Of course, not having too much of an income, not having a place to stay that is reliably yours, having to struggle in life taught me a lot. And all of these spiritual methods and mechanisms that I had learned came in handy once I started paying attention to what was keeping me back and what else I could do to make my life better, what else I could give up from the past. Now, some things are not a choice, and those are harsh realities that you have to wake up to. How you adapt, how resilient you are, decides what's going to happen next in your life. So, that happened for the first couple of years, and then COVID happened. Now, the levels of resilience that you gain by the experiences I went through, having an awakening, having to be isolated, having to now focus on one chronic thing in your back that you have to pay attention to all the time. You can't neglect any of it. You have special needs, you have kind of a handicap, but you're also getting some great abilities. Better make good use of them. And you have resilience built in because of all of these factors. Makes you stronger, makes you want to explore new things. You've grown out of your cocoon. And that was already happening to me. Then COVID hit, and you had to be extra resilient. Suddenly, everyone's life changed. The pandemic made it more difficult to uh, survive. And now it was brought to our attention in a glaring way, right in your face, that life is fragile. Anything could happen. The certainty that we had grown into was not really a certainty that you could rely on anymore. Your life will change, everybody's life will change. You have no choice in it. And the world was shaken out of its complacence. There, my drive to survive and the methods I had learned kicked in. For example, I live a backpacker's existence and it's mostly outdoors. As a result of that, I was already socially distanced. Being outdoors more often keeps you outside of circulated air. That turned out to be a blessing in disguise. Cleaning myself up, having that sanitizer, being part of that effort on the street, helping people out, and creating awareness, adapting to this new reality on public transportation, which I was taking quite heavily, made me conscious of instincts within me that hadn't been there since probably me being a school kid. You go back to that level of discipline, a regimented, you have to do this kind of thing that you once you go into school, you have to sit in a class, you have to listen to what the teacher is saying, you have to do the homework and assignments. It became that uh, kind of routine again for me. Somehow it triggered uh, feelings of that life. And okay, I was ready for it. My mindset, which is already a mindful one, which was involved with the Tao in reducing my number of needs, possessions, devoting more and more of my life to meditation, to practices conducive to spirituality, to going in trance and being in communion with that higher power that is speaking through me post awakening, was already a habit. Now, even more things got discarded. New things, new patterns were introduced. Old patterns were abruptly halted. And now it's about day to day survival, but a fear, a threat of something unknown. Virus. Who had heard of this? Fortunately, I had some medical knowledge because I have a past background in healthcare. Came in very handy. Knew about vaccines, knew about immunity, knew about precautions, measures, levels of concern, caution, seen from a more rational perspective, thanks to an education, and my ability to help out with ideas that I tried to put on social media and other channels through which I, you know, communicate with the uh, medical community. Turned out we were all in this together. That's the other feeling of people you don't even know, strangers, but we are all in this together just because it's a common experience that we're going through in this community. And this was happening in all the communities around the world. It was a very localized experience. That's what you can say about COVID. Reliance on your own community and knowing that people are there for each other is a very heartening feeling, isn't it? I felt that throughout the pandemic. Breaking out of a pattern of complacency, a feeling that the world, the way it is, and my own drama, personal drama, and what I'm going through is so much bigger. That feeling kind of went away very abruptly because everybody's going through it. Now it's a common experience. Now it's about your resilience as you're indoors. And there, meditation helps, of course. There, mindfulness helps. If you're already reducing your needs, then when things go away that you're used to, it's not an abrupt change. You have conditioned your mind to let go mindfully of whatever it was that you were doing in excess. In my case, coffee, sometimes smoking cigarettes. Uh, Alcohol was not a problem since my awakening because drinking alcohol gives me a feeling of toxicity. And so does smoking a cigarette now that I realize it. Feels toxic in my mouth. But took me a while to reduce that to the point of removing it out of my life. Eating less meat, having fewer stimulations. You'd be amazed by the things that you didn't even think about as cravings and certainties in your life. Sugar, candy, having a sweet tooth, caffeine, the habit of eating just for the sake of eating without even being hungry, the effect on your body. Are you feeling sluggish because you had a heavy meal? Was it full of rich, fatty stuff? It's not completely eliminated from my life, but it's reduced to the point of I'm feeling the effects of it health wise. So, this was a habit I had inculcated as a result of my awakening and out of necessity for its upkeep and maintenance. Now, that habit just had to be applied to other necessities and things that I felt were needs, going to the movies, socializing in a bar. When you mindfully make yourself aware of those as dependencies, if they have become that, and going inwards to a calmer existence of yourself, with your own self, with your own thoughts, and focused on your own life with a sense of calm, not lacking anything. If you're mindfully aware, if you're ready for that, if you're working in that direction in the first place, then Less of this isolation, social distancing, added anxiety, stress becomes an issue. Your mind is capable of handling it. It doesn't mean that best outcomes will come. You might have tragedy, you might have bad things happening, you might have some suffering. You know you can cope with it, and you have your mechanisms to fall back on. If I close my mind and put on mantras and do a meditation along with them, at the end of it, when I come out, I have a feeling of blissfulness, a better, fresh, more aware consciousness, and a better way of dealing with the stress I was dealing with in the past, which otherwise would have just congealed in my mind, stayed in my mind, and formed a blockage, something in the way of that fresh outlook, that feeling of relaxation. And for that, I have to do my meditation ritual. It is it becomes a good anchoring point of connecting your old life to your new life, because the one common thing you have is this ritual, this mechanism, this repeated pattern of self activated relaxation that is very effective. So, just as it helped you cope with things in your previous life, it's going to help you cope with things in your pandemic life and post pandemic life, and be able to connect all of those things from this common discipline that you have inculcated of sitting that 20-minute period and meditating or listening to mantras, doing pranayama. Active focus towards mental health, stress relief as a habit remains that, a habit towards that break that you get on a daily basis. Other people may not have that. So their anxieties and cycles and patterns of negative behavior that obviously become accumulating and groove patterns into your brain, on which your next action is based on which your entire life and its rhythms, its patterns, where you're going on that journey is influenced by, the thoughts that you put into action. Less likely that those thoughts are going to be a clear, smooth sailing, well thought out path. If it's an accumulated anxiety um, load that you're taking of stress and have no release valve. Whereas people with the breath practices, people with that feeling, oh, today I have to go and meditate right now at this moment, and I'll feel better. It'll be stress relief for me. 20 minutes later, I'm going to be fresher. Knowing that you can rely on something like that as a mechanism is of immense help, because that reset is a reset to everything from yesterday. It doesn't matter if the society that you live in changed because of a pandemic and new kinds of stress have now been introduced. You have been used to dealing with all kinds of stress through this mechanism that you have. It is pure relaxation, going back to yourself and removing all that is not necessary for you, all that may be toxic for you that you are holding on to. Letting go is just coming back to who you are. A letting go cannot be of a certain kind. That is just coming back to who you are. That's the Tao. Discard everything, find who you are, and be comfortable and relaxed in that. Be relaxed in finding out who you are. Well, obviously, a release valve is just a letting go of anything that was excess, that was not a comfortable state of being, a harmonious existence. And once you do that and make a habit of it, it becomes that much easier. So, hopefully, that shed some light on how meditation, a habit of it, helps you relieve stress of any kind. And regardless of whether patterns in society, the life that you live in, if that changes drastically because of the pandemic, like we saw, you are equipped to handle it because of the habits that you have put in. Hope this was helpful. This is Vivek Govekar saying goodbye. Be well.